What is going on YouTube? Chrono here and welcome back to the channel. So it's that time again where we've got a new event. New event means new seasonal weapon, and new seasonal weapon means new weapon to cover and see how strong it actually is. I'm not going to go too in depth on this one because it's fairly straightforward. It's kind of a repeat of an event weapon we've already gotten once beforehand, so it should be pretty easy for you guys to figure out how strong it's going to be, if you should build it, so on and so forth. But quick little things I wanted to mention in this video. I have been tweaking my audio settings quite a bit, so I'm still in the midst of figuring that out. If the videos sound a little bit differently, apologies, we're still working on that. Also, I genuinely speak very quickly as an individual. I have to actively think about slowing down. If you guys have followed the channel for a long time, you know this has come up a few times. So I know some people have been complaining about not always being able to understand what I'm saying. Just know sometimes it's a difficult process. If I can, I'll do my best to assist in the comments or maybe in DMs if you guys happen to have any questions. Just know that if I use a different type of voice, basically the one I'm using now, it comes through very low, very, I'm not gonna say soft, but it comes through very chill. And some people feel like that sounds boring occasionally. So I try to mix it up back and forth and see which one is more well received. We're going to stick to this style of recording for now. Just know that I tend to be a little bit more long-winded in these. And for those of you guys who are just here for the basic information, since you may have just seen the thumbnail or read the title, I'm going to give you guys the short answer when it comes to this new event weapon. So give me a sec, let me get it pulled up, and we'll jump right into this. So here we are over on the Visiphone site. If you haven't seen what the potential for this weapon is, it's basically the same thing we got with the previous event. So you've got potency, crit rate, and damage resistance, all very solid. This is basically just an upgraded version of the Revel Coat weapons. So if you actually go back and take a look, I think this is Alcinq. Is that how that's pronounced? I'm not sure. But you can see it's right here. Its base level is 40. I never noticed that it only requires level 40 to equip. That's wild. This is the first time I'm seeing this. I just don't pay attention because I always max level, so it never really mattered to me, but it only requires level 40 to equip? That's actually even crazier because that means you can get into this weapon a lot sooner, making it an even better weapon for you guys to use. Either way, it's overall damage, like at max upgrade, you guys can compare to the Revel Coat blades. You can see it's 883 versus 889. Other than that, it's almost exactly the same. You can see the potentials. Do they even use the same name? Yeah, season cycle unit. So they use the same name potential. It's the exact same potential. So very solid. If you want an answer of should you use this, if you're doing event stuff like the LTQ, yes, it is actually stronger than the 9-star variant weapons we have access to, even in some of their best case scenarios. So yes, it's going to be easy to get a hold of high fixes. If you're looking at how you should augment these, I'll talk about that a little bit later. So if you're someone who knows what you're doing, you just want to know, hey, should I use this or not? The answer is yes. If you're doing seasonal stuff, absolutely. Even if you're doing Lucille exploration, funny enough, the enemies in there and the bosses are also seasonal enemies. So it's very good to use there as well. In case you're finding out situations where people just aren't able to push enough damage in Lucille, you can get a pretty sizable advantage by using one of these weapons. So take advantage of it while you can. It is worth mentioning, this is not 100% crit rate, so it is useful to go back to Slayer as a sub, and if you are fully augmented for just potency overall, it's not bad, but just know that you'll suffer a little bit if you're not augmented a bit of potency floor, and you can take care of that in your augments on your weapon without messing around with your units too terribly much. Now, for those of you guys who are like, streamer, I want the spreadsheet. I need to know the math. How does it break down? What are the exact percentages I'm looking at? Where is my strength coming from? Don't worry, I got you. You have now been warned. Here comes the flashbang. So here's your flashbang warning. It's going to be bright. Not much I can do about it. Apologies in advance. So we're using Cakewalk's damage calculator. I have changed up a couple of things since the last time I used this, so I want to go over it with you guys here really quickly. All the stuff is still going to be the same. We're still leaving this exactly as we usually do. But the way that we're going to be comparing is going to be using the Verschmelz weapon and Octo armor, and the way that we're going to be augmenting is going to be something that's very attainable for everyone, in my opinion. This is actually what I'm going to be going for anytime I set up a new weapon before I get to like what I really want to use. Now, of course, you can sub out some things if you don't have access to certain things, or if you need, to have a stopgap, that's totally fine. So we'll be using Gladia LC, Stat, speed trippable. These are, I mean, this is pretty much free at this point. These aren't very expensive. PHANTASY LC, Gigas Master LC, and then an XD capsule. I personally go with XD Speed Mail Tech. Some people opt to go with the Deft instead of Speed. That's totally fine. You can actually swap out this for Deft, and I believe there's a Deft trippable as well. I'm not 100% sure. You should be able to swap both these out for Deft. If you're someone who's like, let's say playing a, I was gonna say if you're playing Slayer, but even then you wouldn't go with Deft. Let's say you're a player who just doesn't believe that we're gonna stay full potency value, that we're gonna go potency floor. On your armor, you can swap in Deft for those. That way you're good no matter what the situation is. For example, in situations like using this, this seasonal weapon. So that works out in your favor. Anyway, so that's how we're gonna be augmenting overall. And it's not like it's max augments, you can definitely do better, but you also aren't really like hurting by that much by going for these. This is like my bare minimum now. So what are we looking like for potential? So as you can see, this is with bouncer main, fighter sub. Technically this can be more in favor. Actually, you know what, since it's a tough call, right? Because I want to compare it using sub slayer for the weapon, but like as you can see, this is already in favor of the Verschmelz because we have sub fighter instead of sub slayer. Let me make sure we get our enemy level right, because the enemies you're going to be fighting at most will be 75. Well, I mean, really they're going to be 70, but 75 is fair. But if we take a look at the comparison right now, so this is our baseline, is a Terminal 1 Verschmelz. As you can see already with no fixa with the seasonal affix setup, the seasonal weapon at plus 70 is absolutely shredding across the board, going as high as 26% with its Termina variant. Now, again, keep in mind, this is without using Sub Slayer. If we go to Sub Slayer, as you can see, it gets a little bit crazier, right? Because you're losing some value on Verschmelz, but you're gaining value on Termina on this weapon, because this weapon doesn't have 100% crit rate. So all in all, seasonal weapons are very, very powerful. Like I mentioned earlier, the Lucille Exploration allows you to get a lot of value out of these weapons, since all those enemies are seasonal as well, which is super, super awesome. Great change by SEGA. Definitely appreciate that. If you're curious of how you should augment your seasonal weapon, this is what I would go with. Leave Mastery on there and go with the stat, and then just slap in these LCs. You can go High El Domina here, or you can go Hal Finale. Now, the reason you go High El Domina is because there's some potency floor here, and you're likely going to have very little potency floor if you're fully augmented for potency. So going with High El Domina LC here is not a bad choice. Mastery's already on it for free. This is already on it for free. That's what's giving you most of your actual overall value. And that's kind of how things are going to go from there. This is my recommendation personally. Feel free to augment however you would like. Like I said, this isn't going to be a long one. It's fairly straightforward. Use the weapon if you're participating in anything seasonal or just playing this month in general. If you're not playing this month, this is a good weapon for alts. So you can pretty much take all of this and then just swap out the Setsune after the event's over. I probably would swap it for... I mean, it's an easy swap for a capsule. Those are kind of expensive, so it's an easy swap for like Alt Secreta, which if you don't like the minus or the downsides of Alt Secreta, you can easily swap this as well for something like one of the Meltech dualables or something like that. So any of the doable stats will also work pretty well. Speed tripables, def trippable, whatever you want to go with, all are solid options here outside of the event. But during the event, leave Setsune in there. And that about covers all of it. There's not a whole lot to think about. Just grab the seasonal weapon if you're doing the season, or if you need a stopgap for an alt, or leave it alone if you don't. It's only gonna be useful for this month, and afterwards it's gonna go about the wayside as seasonal weapons usually do. Anyway, let me know if I missed anything in the comments below, guys. Like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to keep up with more, and I'll see you all next time. Take care, everyone. Peace out.